This is Formula One Fans of America, Season 2, Episode 18. I am your host, Rich, and with me tonight I've got Jay and Fabian, and we're going to talk about the most recent race. A lot of action. We saw both Ferraris come out. Rough weekend for them, obviously. Kimi Antonelli making a huge rookie mistake. We'll get into that. And we'll also talk about my best friend Lance and how he was up in the points again. So want to kick it off with our usual segment. We were right, we were wrong. I will call myself out once again and give credit where it is due to the both of you and Meg for, about a third of the way through the season. I said that Kimi Antonelli was the only rookie worth a damn, and I was wrong. Definitely wrong. Isaac Hadjar, both of you corrected me on the spot and said, hold on a second. Wait now. Isaac Hadjar is the fucking truth. And just give it a little bit more time. Now that we're halfway through the season, a little slightly more than halfway, you guys are right. I was wrong once again. I'll eat those words. And, man, on the podium, first season as a rookie. I love seeing it. He's definitely outshining Kimi at this point. As Kimi, he has his own struggles. We'll talk about that crash and that incident later. What an awesome weekend for him. One of the most challenging tracks is Zandvoort, especially that turn 3. We saw it it took Lewis out of the race. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how it also hit some dudes in qualifying. My best friend Stroll being one of them. Practice and quali, right? He crashed out in both. So just, rough racetrack. There's I think maybe the only track that has a smaller margin of error would be Monaco. I don't know how you guys feel or agree on that, but this track just leaves no room for error, because as soon as you go off of it and onto the painted lines or even slide into the gravel, unless you're Max save your ass Verstappen, you're going into a wall or you're going into the gravel and you're not coming back out. And Lewis pulled a full 360 in practice and still managed to stay on the track. That was mind-boggling. That was a Verstappen-esque recovery. I'll even give Max the credit above, Lewis and all his championships, but I'll say that nobody knows how to recover and save a dangerous situation better than Max. He also had his own slight incident on, it was, I think, the first lap when he was pushing through Lando and slid it out, but still kept his pace, or excuse me, his pace and place. That works. But yeah, he just continuously proves to me week in and week out what a quality driver he is, and just how instinctive and talented and just the raw talent that he already possessed. But it's one of those things where he's like Larry Bird, he practiced endlessly and just never gave up. And it was just self-imposed and also imposed by his dad, but more so it's been self-imposed. He lives in the sim and he just knows how to correct a car. He just knows how to do this. And honestly, one of the greatest drivers of all time. So shout out to Max Verstappen for being awesome. Mm-hmm. But
agreed.
What did you guys think about just those initial thoughts about the weekend? Any kind of high level coverage?
Yeah, you touched a lot of it. And just to point out, and actually Lewis had it happen twice. 2 360s during the weekend on practice. And
wasn't it both during FP2?
Both of them. And how was that, bud?
Wasn't it both during FP2?
I thought it was.
Or did you do FP1 and FP2?
I thought it was in 2 separate sessions. I did watch all the sessions, but I was also in the midst of a big rave event, so I don't remember everything exactly how it happened.
Old ass man, going to raves and shit.
Hey, no, I throw them. I am the DJ for them. Get it right.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Get it right. Get it tight. So anyway, no, it was. Look, Zandvoort has really. I think it's one of the ugliest tracks on the circuit, but it is one of the most interesting tracks on the circuit. It really, I mean, on the entire, season, it's fascinating. And
A small taste of NASCAR in there with these bank turns and
it
like
was
the
really
change
funny
in
because,
elevation.
because
We'll dig
Max
into that, which is why Kimi made that huge error of going inside on it. But go ahead.
well, remember, in the pre-race press deal, Max was sitting next to Bortoletto, and they were talking about how you don't take the apex on that turn, you take the outside, and he said to Bortoletto, "So don't hit me." And then that aged well because he took the inside, and thank God he recovered it because he is great. But man, a great example of why you don't do that, right? But a great example of balls to even try it. Look, very exciting.
It was a lot better than, who was it, Lawson, or who was it that thought that they could carry DRS in through a turn because they did it in the
that was Dolan.
Doohan, okay.
Yeah,
way better than there's a difference between
no.
balls and brains. And that was just balls. Yeah.
Well, I love the fact that the race gave us the first Grand Chelem of an Aussie driver since 1966. Okay. That right?
Wow, we really didn't get one?
Yeah, listen. And that Isaac Hadjar is the first kid to come out of the system to get a podium in his first season. He's the first.
What system?
Out of the driver. I forgot the term that they use for it because I don't talk about it much at all.
Like the developmental
driver program. He's the first one out of Red Bull's developmental driver program to, out of RB's, the RB team to get a podium in his first season.
Yep.
The first RB driver to get one.
As a rookie. Yeah.
Yep.
Max.
Yes, he is. Nope.
Max had a podium in fucking
nope,
because he got switched up to Red Bull.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Yes, but he got switched up to Red Bull and fucking got in his first race in Red Bull took a win.
Correct. That's the Red Bull, not RB.
Language.
I thought,
gentlemen.
Not RB. So that was a really interesting development too.
I thought he got one.
I don't know if I got to put it up on our page yet, but it is on our Instagram page. Yeah, first Red Bull Junior to get a podium in his rookie F1 season.
Okay, fuck me.
Yep. So really cool developments at that race. Love what the RB car is capable of. The RB car looks true. I really do now believe that if Max was driving that RB, this would be a different season for him.
So it is interesting. Touch on this, and Jay, I think you might know a little bit more than either of us about the differences in the team and the differences in the development of those cars. What are your thoughts on this with like how performant that V carb is? Still, it's not V carb anymore, is it? It's just Team RB.
It's Racing Bulls.
It's still
Racing Bulls.
AlphaTauri.
Yeah, exactly. But what are your thoughts on this with the two different developments and how this car seems more performant than the top tier team does?
It does.
So I'm going to say something sacrilegious right here, right now, and
surprise.
Oh no, sacrilegious for me, not for you guys. Like big difference here,
right?
I blame Newey. Newey went with that extreme concept after the RB19, dominated, absolutely dominated. Right. And instead of just adjusting that car enough to get past the regs, he went with the small side pods. He went with the horizontal fin or the horizontal. He went with the freaking lip of the shark or shark bite or whatever the hell they were calling it. Like he rapidly adjusted that car. And whenever it shit the bed, RB should have went back to as close to the 19 as they could have. That is not bad. Don't give me that look.
Go ahead.
But like honestly, and you guys know how much respect I have for Adrian Newey. And I'm saying I think this is his fault.
Mm-hmm.
So now, granted, he might have had something in mind, and then whenever Horner's thumb poses came out, he said, okay, screw this. I'm just going to go stop doing this and move along with my life. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong with that car. I don't know if it's like not completed, and with his notebooks, that means his notes aren't really around.
Right.
You know, like nobody could build on it. But then you have the AlphaTauri, which based its whole car off the RB19, and it's still ripping through things. So where do you look at as far as what's the problem?
It definitely seems like it's imbalanced. You know, it's a very difficult car. Very similar to what Ferrari is experiencing and going through right now, which is why you're seeing them spin it out, you know? It's not like evenly and well put together, and it's just off and difficult to drive for the drivers.
Yeah.
It does lend a little bit of credence to Checo and his struggles. You know, like we talked about it at length of, you know, maybe it was a mental thing, but it's also just Max can still drive the car. You know what I mean? Max can still get a podium even with these troubles. So it's like, how good are you? But it doesn't seem like anybody in, like, Yuki has struggled all year long, you know, and it is mostly the car, I would say. I don't know how you fall on that and where you stand on it, but like, I don't blame Yuki at all. There's a lot of conjecture, and everybody loves to be hyperbolic, and like one weekend does not make a driver's change. Although we've seen it in the past, but this should not be Yuki in the hot seat because Isaac did well, you know, and podiumed. It's great for RB. It's a great weekend, but I think that team understands and knows what's going on that we don't get to see, all the test and development data, all the engineering data, and the drivers' input themselves that is not publicized and not out for public consumption. So I just, it is a good point that like this RB car was based off of the RB19 and the winningest car that we had that season, the one that Max just dominated with. And that's credence to him, but also credence to Nui's engineering designing. And I don't think it's sacrilegious as you're saying. I do think that he, you know, this is part of engineering, is to want to advance and push things forward. And he may have just pushed a little bit harder than he ordinarily would have. And he may have also done it because he knows he's leaving. Let's go ahead and talk about
whenever that
Aston
car
Martin
was
is,
released.
Go ahead.
Whenever that car was released, they had no clue that Nui was leaving at that point. Because you got to remember that was before all the Horner
stuff. But he may have known. He may have known.
That might be a little bit of a stretch.
Speculation. Yeah.
So, but at the same point, I blame Red Bull. Like now, I'm saying last year and everything like that, I'll totally say on Nui. But I'll blame Red Bull where it's due, which is they've had a year and a half to figure this out, and they still haven't fixed the fucking car, as Christian Horner would say. It was on Netflix. Leave me alone.
I love it.
But like,
I love it.
They've had plenty of opportunity to change around that car, and they've decided not to. And I don't know why. It's idiotic at best. Like, obviously, something's not working. So what do? Do you go the insanity route and keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result? Or do you change the car and adjust it? So that's just where I'm at. I mean, like, putting anybody next to Max, with the exception of maybe Lewis, Alonso, and anybody got any other name that you could really put Max in the same car as, and Max wouldn't just destroy them up and down the freaking road?
Stroll.
Anyways, in the world of reality, I really can't come up with any other driver that I've seen in the past 15 years other than Vettel that could compete with Max at this point?
I think like Kubica could have. I think
Before
Raikkonen
the
could
wreck,
have.
yes. Before the wreck, yes.
Oh yes,
Raikkonen,
yeah, absolutely.
Raikkonen, no, not
You mean
after his Ferrari stint.
Wait, at what point? From what point? What are you talking
I'm talking from 2010 and forward. The only three drivers that I can come up with are Lewis, Alonso, and Vettel, and that's it.
That's fair. I can buy into that.
And even then, it's questionable if Alonso and Vettel could.
I mean,
because I don't think Vettel Prime. Yeah, I don't know if Vettel Prime could handle Max,
and
that hurts a lot to say that one. But like Rich was saying, Max is just absolute god tier. Everybody wants to say it was reckless in his youth. Maybe it was training in his youth. Like
I think that's
he
fair,
was actively
to
trying to figure out absolutely everything that an F1 car can and cannot do. It came off as reckless, but at the same time, it was while he was able to test that and not get kicked out of F1. If you really think about it, because he was still performing, he was still doing everything, but he was still testing the shit out of that car. So, yeah.
All right, we're gonna segue again. We're gonna take a quick little admin pause, and then we're back after our quick little break. But I wanted to jump right in, gentlemen, with Russell appears to be staying with Mercedes. He has said and articulated that it is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And obviously they're trying to come to terms with his contract. There are so many facets and things involved with a Formula One driver's contract that a lot of us don't know, but it's almost worse than an NFL player's contract, with clauses and stipulations and bonuses and performance based on the team and what they're providing with the car versus the driver's performance, and when in clauses of when they can and cannot leave. And so I think that's what they're all trying to just iron and smooth out. And there's a lot of parties at play. His agent, Mercedes marketing but Mercedes team, legal team. It appears that he wants to stay with Mercedes, be a Mercedes driver. It appears to be all likely that he's going to keep trying to keep that seat with Mercedes. Is this smart for him? Or should he be open to another team, especially with the 2026 regs coming into place and a lot of unknown and uncertainty that's going to be coming through in the coming years? So Jay, I'll kick it over to you. What are your thoughts on this?
So first and foremost, Russell is the epitome of what a Mercedes driver should be. He's posh, he's arrogant, he's a whiner. But realistically,
tell us how you fucking really feel.
Anyways, so he's an amazing driver, but he's got his own chips on his shoulders. And I think staying within the Mercedes family is going to keep that chip on his shoulder. Now, do I think he would do better at an Alpine or maybe an Aston Martin or something along those lines? Yeah, kind of. But I
Williams,
think
if they keep pushing, Williams has a car now, and they've got a drive now. They didn't have it when he was there, but they've got a drive now. So that's where I would speculate. Could he go and partner with Sainz and take Williams back to the top in the foregone history of winning that Williams used to have?
No.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think he can. I think that car, as much as Albon has complained about, that car, the Red Bull was only designed for Max, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Sainz and him have very similar driving styles. And I think that car was designed around Albon and Sainz both, but more Albon than anything. I think you're seeing the maximum that somebody's going to be able to push out of that car, which is impressive because Albon's riding it straight to the edge the entire time, and I'm not going to take a single thing away from him. But at the end of the day, that car is not going to suit George. And it's that simple. There was a reason why George took the seat over Valtteri back in the day, is because him and Lewis had a very similar driving style. Now, I could see after Lewis retires, George going to Mercedes or to Ferrari. I could really see that. But the real question that you have to ask here right now is, can George actually lead that team? There's a reason why, like, yes, Max is the best driver on the grid right now, but there's absolutely a reason why Toto is trying to push so hard to get Max, which is Max is a team leader. He can do it. He's been doing it since he was, 17 years old, basically. Like, Ricardo had it maybe for a year at most. And ever since then, Max has taken it over. And this leads into the next thing is, you mentioned earlier about how Kimi started falling off right around mid-season, or right after he got his podium, sorry. I'm kind of wondering if they're not pressuring him, that they're going to keep George and it's up to Kimi to prove himself. And that's interesting because, I mean, we haven't seen anything out of Kimi that was the promised child, golden child that was coming out of F2. And I've seen more out of
kind of
Bortoletto.
a flash in the pan of a start. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, it was a flash in the pan and a hot start, but not consistency. And even a little of the mental inconsistencies that we've highlighted with some of these younger drivers. But yeah, carry on, please.
But what I was going to say was, I mean, like, you've got Bortoletto proving himself in an absolute trash can tank of a freaking steak. You have Hadjar putting the RB3 or the whatever the heck they're calling that car. I don't even know anymore. He's putting it up on a podium, and realistically, that car has not been to a podium since 2021, whenever Gasly won. I forget what race it was off the top of my head, but Gasly winning because obvious reasons. So you've got to look at it like that as well. Like, Kimi is now underperforming compared to most of the other rookies. I mean, even your best friend Lawson is performing better. And it's like, okay, so if he's not performing, but he's supposed to be the Messiah here, should we bring in Max to teach him? And I don't think they're going to let George go. I think they're just going to let Kimi go to Williams or do something like that.
Wait, but Kimi's underperforming, but he's got the most points.
He's also in the best car out of all of the rookies up until 2 races ago, whenever the RB actually started showing up. The Mercedes is hands down the better car than any other of the rookie cars on the grid. Because, I mean, okay, so Behrman's in a Haas. We don't need to say anything more about that. Bortoletto is in the Stake, which they had a flash in the pan for a couple of races, and now they're back down pretty far, if I remember correctly. And honestly, like, even though I called Hulkenberg getting a podium, he still pushed there was so many things that had to go right in order for him to have that podium. Like, it wasn't just based on talent. It wasn't just based on the car. It was literally so many different circumstantial things happened in order for them to get that car onto the podium.
Mm-hmm.
You have Colapinto, Duhan, and whatever else in the Alpine, which that car, even Gasly's not able to do anything. And Gasly is actually an amazing driver for being French. So you have that. You have Lawson and Hadjar in the RB. I already said my opinions on the RB. Like, is that car showing up now because it's finally at a good place? I don't know. So Kimi in the Mercedes, which is still the 3rd place car on the grid. How do you argue that?
Mm-hmm.
You don't. It's that simple. Like, he is literally in the best car for out of any rookie right now.
Okay.
It's a good segue into our next segment, which is Ferrari really put the F word out this weekend. Double DNF. Although it was not Charles' fault. And he took what, 2 penalties? He took a 10-second for causing the collision and a 5-second for speeding through the pit lanes. Not great. Not good performance. Typical, stereotypical in rookie performance. Almost predictable, you know? He just took a bad day and made it worse. But he definitely caused someone their entire race. And it was like a contact between his front tire and Charles' rear tire. And in a turn, he went the inside on turn 3, which everybody, even other rookies, as you pointed out, were like, you don't do that. You don't take the inside on that turn. Even if you have it, you don't take it. You still have to go to the outside. There's like a flat spot in the middle of it where you're going to lose control. You're going to lose traction. It's also very windy and elevated at that. It's banked. It was stupid and reckless. And it was a rookie mistake. It didn't cost, well, at the end of the day, it cost him and the team points. It didn't cost him his entire race. He still finished, but it cost him points. It should have cost him a lot more, in my opinion, than it did, especially because it's pretty much renowned and known by every other driver on the grid that you don't do that. You don't try to pass there. So it was foolish. I know it wasn't intentional. I also just give so much props to professionalism to Charles for his reaction afterwards. Yeah, there's memes and it's, funny, quote unquote, to see him sitting out on the side of the grid. But like, I'm not laughing at that. Like, I feel empathetic for the dude. It wasn't his fault. It sucked. It was awful for his race to end that way. He was composed beyond measure from anybody that would have had that happen to them. And I think he was also very forgiving towards Kimi for that mistake, an absolute blunder. And yeah, complete error. Shout out to Charles for just being a consummate professional and a quality person. He could have ripped him to shreds for what he did to him in ending his race. But he didn't do that. It was very, very odd. We touched on this in like the intro that like Lewis never, like hardly ever crashes on his own. It's happened more times now in a Ferrari almost than it has in his career, or at least these spins. And he's kind of like lack of control of the car. Like I don't think I've ever seen this happen to him in any other car that he's ever driven. And so it shows this imbalance with the Ferrari that they just can't seem to get right, whether it's the brakes, whether it's the tires, whatever. Like they need to get it together. And it's insane that they're still second in the constructors. I'll kick it back to you, Jay, because I think I was cutting off a thought that you had.
So you got to remember, whenever Kimi hit Max was the same way. Everybody's treating Kimi with like real kid gloves with him. Like no one's getting in him and being like, you're absolutely stupid. Why the hell would you do something like that? And both Charles and Max had amateur mistakes against them from Kimi. So it's like, what's the actual deal here? Because I mean, I remember Vettel.
What do you think that is, man? Do you think that there's some kind of level of mutual respect there between drivers as professionals, or like what do you think is the impetus behind that?
I'm not entirely sure, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, are they looking at him like he's the special little brother here, or what? Like, because I mean, I still remember whenever Vettel and Max went at each other, and Max was younger than Kimi at that time, but Vettel was also a hothead. So tomato there.
If I recall correctly, like I remember Max saying that, you know, he's like giving him the benefit of the doubt that he's a rookie and that we all make mistakes, and he was very understanding of the rookie mindset. But like that's why I think that there's some kind of level of mutual respect between them as drivers, where he sees his talent and sees maybe even a little bit of himself there, you know, so he can kind of commiserate somewhat. I do think that Kimi is one of the most talented drivers out of the rookies, although Hadjar is putting up the numbers.
Yep.
But yeah, I wonder if that's where it's coming from. And like, I don't think that's a far reach or too much speculation.
Yeah. And the other thing is that like, I'm not going to really say that Ferrari put the F in it this weekend, because half of it was them, half of it wasn't. Like, realistically, you can't predict somebody crashing to another driver. And as far as the balance of the car goes, and I've said this to you guys before, and I know you guys have bashed on me for it and everything like that, but I'm going to say it again. Lewis was set in his ways. He was driving a Mercedes-based car for what, like 20 years? Like total throughout his career? I think about 20. You don't just switch over to something completely different. There's a reason why Sainz said I only need about 8 races, because he switched before like this numerous times. You know, Alonso switched numerous times.
Yeah, but Sainz, it hasn't worked out that way for him.
Sainz was doing good until Lawson hit him. He was in 8th, 7th, I think.
If you just look at his finishes for the season, it's not indicative of him only needing 8 races to get it together.
I'm not
one of the greatest drivers of all time. Lance Stroll has switched multiple times too. And is adapted.
Statements about adapting to the car. He's saying that because the adaptation process is difficult for him.
So I'd have to go back and look at the races, but I'd be interested to how much of it is crash damage for Sainz of why he didn't finish as well as he should have, especially past that 8 race mark. Because realistically, he was in 8th place whenever he got crashed into, or 7th. I can't remember right where he was at, but he gets crashed into and screws his whole race, you know? And I know that's happened at least 2 other times in the past couple of races to Sainz. So realistically, like, I mean, come on. You can't always say, like, just like I said with Charles, it's not like it was Ferrari's fault there that he got crashed into. And I think that's a big thing that people need to look at. And I think this is why F1 teams actually look at their drivers versus what their records actually are. Like, yeah, we have demonstrations of, oh, well, you're underperforming, go. But at the same time, even Red Bull wasn't doing that. There has been, whenever they remove a driver, there has been a plethora of reasons to move that driver. Whether that be you're seeing the drivers not adapting to the car and they're wrecking it constantly. Checo, Lawson, oh my God, Max's daughter's actual dad. Shit. I can't remember his name right now.
PK?
No. Cuba, Russian dude. Oh my God, Daniel
Kubica?
Kvyat. Daniel Kvyat. Yeah.
Kvyat.
Like,
yes.
Look at him. They knew
Kubica is in your brain because I brought him up earlier. He's a Polish driver.
Yeah, that's what was throwing me off.
Before he's crashing. But yes.
Okay.
But Kvyat got pulled because he wasn't good enough to be in the Red Bull. He was crashing. He was making stupid mistakes. They literally nicknamed the dude the Torpedo. Like, there is literally documentation going through where you have these drivers that are coming up through all of these programs and they're just not performing. But Sainz was in the Red Bull program. He left on his own. You know, there's a reason why he's went to other teams, and the only reason he's ever been removed from those teams is because you had Danny Rick coming in to Alpine Renault. It was Renault at the time. You had Danny Rick coming into Renault, then Danny Rick going into McLaren. So what are they going to do? Are you going to turn down a race winner or somebody who's unproven? Makes sense, but people kept on taking chances on him. Ferrari did not have to sign him. They could have literally went and grabbed anyone on the grid pretty much at that point, because I forget who said it, but they said it best. Everybody wants to drive the red car. So you're looking at it.
But do you think that they still do at this point? And this kind of like segues into my next topic. Do you think Charles would consider and be open to leaving if there was a seat at Mercedes? Do you think that Charles, like this is where I would see it going? I think Charles would be open and willing to move into Mercedes.
I think he would listen to the offer. I don't necessarily know
if he would be wise to do so.
So,
Fabian, I'm curious about your position on this. And I know he's there with Lewis, and he's kind of like competing for this top tier seat, and it's a toss up. He's outperformed Lewis in the car when it comes down to every metric. What are your thoughts on Charles? And like, do you think that he would stay die hard and live red and drive that red car like everybody wants to? Or do you think that he would maybe consider it a new team?
I don't know, but I know if I were Charles, if I were him, I would realize by now that I win races, not championships, and I would stay with the red car and I'd keep winning as many as I could. That's what I would do.
Jay, chime in on this, Jay, after Fabian's done, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to disrupt the continuity of that tenure. The love the fans have for him, his comfort with the inner workings of the organization and the car designs inherently, because it's in his DNA at this point. He would be putting himself in a situation that Carlos has put himself in, that Lewis has put himself in, and then it would, it could be really bad. The reason why Lewis did what he did is because he understood that the regulation change was coming, and that he'd have a whole year to integrate himself with that team and impact what happens from 26 and forward. That's the play there. That's in Glenn Ross, they would say that's the shot. He knows that's the shot. Sure, yeah, if you could come in this year and possibly have won or at least competed and made some noise, great. But in the meantime, with the technical papers and all the things that are going on, it's about changing what's made Ferrari not be good for so long, so that they can possibly emerge as the Ferrari of old, in this new regulation cycle. So for Charles, I think, like I said, if I was him or if I was the little angel on his shoulder, I'd be like, no, dude, you don't win championships. You win. That's why I use that phrase a lot when people, talk about Charles versus Lewis and the Lewis haters and all that. I'm like, yeah, but they're not the same. Well, Sainz is what I use it with. They're like, they should have kept Sainz. I said, it took Sainz 150 Grand Prix to win one. By 150 Grand Prix, Lewis had won how many championships? Like they're not the same, right? I love Carlos Sainz. I mean, I love his personality. I do. The guy he's a great guy. He's fun.
He's a consummate driver, a consummate personality. He does everything right. I love him too.
He's a great dude, but he does not win championships. It's as simple as that. And Charles is in the same boat. He's got how many 100 races? 200 under his belt now, I think it is. Is it more? How many? How many does Charles have? It's less than that because Sainz is what he took 150 to win his, and he's somewhere between 150 and 200. I thought Charles was closing in on
164.
164. Okay, so
164 entries, 162 starts.
Okay, so he's almost there, right? He's got 2 seasons and he's there, right? Yeah, these guys are going to get you some races. They're going to give you some good headlines. They're going to, they're good looking kids. They're fun. They're good guys. I mean, both of those guys are really good guys. In fact, remember all the chemistry between Carlos and Charles, just in all the extracurricular stuff they did in social media and all that. Lewis and Charles do that, but they don't do it near as much as Carlos and Charles did. It's just a different dynamic, So yeah, I land on stay where you are, man. Keep that red keep that red suit, keep it all red, keep it all Ferrari. Grab as many podiums and races as you can win, and be happy with it. It's a good life. You know what I'm saying? It really is.
It's true. Yeah, second place ain't that bad in the constructors, and you're still doing it in a car that competes. Jay, what are your thoughts on this?
So I disagree the fact that Charles is not a championship caliber driver. I definitely think he is. I also really think that Ferrari screwed up from last year to this year, where they openly admit we changed 99% of this car.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing Ferrari, they probably kept the 1% that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, realistically. And I think
probably like 10% that was bad, but yes.
You know what I mean? But realistically, Charles is absolutely a championship caliber driver. And
I don't think he is.
I think the Ferrari
I disagree with you, and I'm gonna jump in and pile on you with Jay. I definitely believe that he is, because of his consistency and performance. And like, no matter what's going on with that car, he still manages a way to perform. Very similar to what Max is doing with the RB or the Red Bull right now. He still drives the wheels off that car. And he's adapted to the changes and the development better than Lewis has, although it is complete, like, an entirely different change and transition for Lewis. And he's spoken at it publicly of just, that's more personal changes and transition than I think the car. A 7-time world champion should be able to step into any car and drive the wheels off of it. That's where I put Max above Lewis as far as greatest driver of all time, although he doesn't have the titles. I think just the talent and the ability to drive a car that is incompatible and difficult. But like, okay, I'm gonna skip over Jay and let Fabian rebut.
I'm gonna say this. I will agree with you when we put Max in a car that uses engine braking when he didn't, or vice versa. When he's using a totally different braking system than he did, and vice versa. And when the suspensions are different types, front and rear, and vice versa. When we put Max in a car, any car, that is the antithesis of what he's driven with Red Bull, and he drives the doors off of it, then I'll co-sign what you're saying.
I understand what you mean, and I will not overturn your point. I do understand exactly what you're saying, and I understand. But Jay, come in.
I'm going to overturn his point, though. So the reason why Max is actually the better driver is Lewis in the Mercedes, which we're going with your theory. Okay. That's what he's used to. That's what he's driven, everything like that. Whenever it was an absolute shit box, Lewis was down in the points. Lewis was not able to do anything. There are literally drivers saying this car is god awful. And it's not just like one person. It goes all the way back to 21 or 20, sorry, where you have people saying like this car is a monstrosity to drive. But yet Max won 1, 2, 3. Oh, 3 championships in an absolute shitbox. But arguably that one is the greatest car ever created. And now you look at the 2025 season. He has how many wins this year? 1, 2. He has 2 wins. Yeah, 3 wins. No, 2. Sorry. He has 2 wins and a bunch of podiums. I didn't see that out of Lewis between 22 and 24.
Oh, he had podiums.
But you'll turn around. I'm not saying he didn't have podiums.
Yeah.
Don't get that twisted. And I know he won Silverstone in 24. Like, I'm not taking for once. I'm not taking anything away from Lewis. I am literally just going on absolute facts of a shitty car versus a shitty car, and Max is still outperforming that car by far. Whereas Lewis just sat there and said, this is not what I'm used to. This is not what I'm used to. This is not what I'm used to. It's undrivable. Simple as that. Like, I get what you're saying about Ferrari, where it's nothing that he's used to and everything like that. But his teammates, George did complain. I will say that, but George complains anyways. But George was able to put it on a podium and get wins, like, or not wins, sorry. Wait, did he win one? I think he won one throughout that time. Because we were in shock, Rich, whenever he won one before Lewis did.
And it's gonna happen. Everything you're saying is spot on, man. Let's just go ahead and I don't want to cut you off if you had to finish that thought, but I do want to jump into Yuki got back into the points this weekend. Is this enough? Is it going to be enough for him to keep the seat, especially in light with Hadjar's performance? And again, we are not hyperbolic like the rest of the typical F1 media is. We're not going to sit here and speculate and say and claim like a lot of fans would that oh, well, here goes Hadjar taking the RB2 seat. They're going to demote Yuki back to RB. I don't expect that to happen. I think that they're going to wait Yuki out for the rest of the year. What are your thoughts on this here as a Yuki fan? And again, the RB, like we've discussed already, the RB is performing very well because it's based off of the previous Red Bull car. But how does this get managed now in Red Bull's racing?
I just don't see Yuki on the grid next year. I just don't. And not at Red Bull, not in a Red Bull car, junior car.
I'm worried that you're right.
Well,
I'm worried that you're right.
Yeah, I just don't see it. There's too many other prospects out there. There's too much opportunity for movement. I really think you're going to see Arvid Lindblad come into the seat and Hadjar moved kicking and screaming into the Red Bull seat.
That's what I think.
It's important to note that it's no longer going to be Honda. It's going to be Ford or Red Bull next year. And it's that, money talks, BS walks. It's if you're not there, and that's one of the prime reasons why Checo is going to Cadillac. I wouldn't doubt that a team either he gets demoted to reserve driver with Red Bull, or he ends up as a reserve driver on another team next season. But I don't anticipate him on the grid. Jay, I know he's your boy. I know you love Yuki. I love him too. Honestly, I'm a Yuki fan. I really do like him. And I think he's a great personality, the same way DR3 was. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
So if Horner was still around, I think Yuki would be looking at walking papers right now as we're talking. But at the same time, now that Mekis and Marco are in charge, I don't think so. I think they're going to evaluate throughout the rest of this season to actually see how Yuki is going to do with that car. Because you have to remember, Yuki was stuck in launch mode for the last stint of that race. There was actively something wrong with the car where it couldn't get out of launch mode. And he still managed to bring it into the points, which is impressive in itself. And this falls back to what I was saying earlier. It's not always about results. It's about, can this person do things with this car that it shouldn't be done, or whatever it may be. Now,
yeah, can you drive it to your utmost ability? And what was the actual driver talent and performance based off of all the factors given? And F1 is really great because it's a science. It's a legitimate science. Everything down from aerospace engineering to mechanical and electrical engineering. And all of these things are dissected to the simplest facet. So yeah,
but as far as him being on the grid next year, based off the way Fernando was talking about Aston Martin on Sunday, I'm not 100% sure he's going to be staying with Aston Martin. He may just say, screw it, I'm retiring. I'm actually actively done. Because there was a difference between Fernando's normal comments he makes and everything like that, and what he was saying on Sunday. Like, that was direct. It was against the team, which he has not done since he's been at Aston Martin, really. Like, he may have had one or two, but this was like a constant 40-lap roasting of Aston Martin. So you really have to think, like, is it time for Alonso to step out?
Speaking of Aston Martin, my best friend and favorite driver, Lance Stroll, was back up in the points.
This is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt so bad.
How many drivers have gone from P19 into 7th place? He's in rarefied air. He's in rarefied air right now with some of the greats.
He was in 20.
Drivers of all time. Some of the greatest drivers of all time.
I am not going to take anything away from him on that because it was an amazing drive. And I'm actually shocked that Stroll and amazing go in the same sentence. Besides, I'm going to stop right there. But like, realistically, he did really well. He benefited from a lot of circumstances and definitely put it up. I was impressed. So
it's one of those things, man. And I think you can empathize a little bit. Like, I firmly believe that my guy is ADHD, that he just struggles and lacks focus and concentration. And it was almost like when you saw it with the wrist injury, where like the pain was consuming his attention and just forced him to focus on the task at hand. And that was when he had one of the best races of his entire career, was when he was hurt. So it's like, dude, do I need to like punch you in the liver or kick you in the balls before you get in the car for you to perform? Like, do I need to just give you pain to distract yourself and make you focus so that you have like an external distraction because the race in front of you is not enough? I don't know what it is with him mentally, but there is something there with him mentally where if he has a reason to just lock in and focus, he does. It invalidates a lot of the criticism towards him because on any given Sunday, Lance Stroll can show up and drive. You know, he actually can be a top tier driver.
And I think that's why he gets the criticism that he does, is because while he is an extremely talented individual, he can't consistently do it. And everybody can see there's these flashes of greatness with him, but yet he can't string it together. And that is why he catches so much trouble. And if anything, I would say ADHD or ADHD, like all both side, like, yeah.
It is also too that just like that tone deaf interview about drivers buying their way onto the grid and him being against it. And every single person on earth, like, I almost rolled my eyes out of my skull. Like anybody that listened to that is just like, dude, are you joking? Your dad owns the team and became the CEO of a major company. Like, yep. Come on, man. You've benefited from this how many times now and have bought your way onto the grid. Albeit, again, any given Sunday, he shows up. He muffed it in practice and quali. Wasn't great. But again, on Sunday, if you show up, numbers don't lie, you know. He did it, P19 to 7th place. So shout out to my best friend, Lance Stroll. What in the F is going on with the Mercedes powertrain and the Mercedes cars that are using them? Because there's 4 teams on the grid currently. Every single one of them has had some sort of power unit or engine failure. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. I think it was Kimi went out with a power unit failure, or maybe it was Russell.
They both had one this season.
and that's it. And so Norris had one. It was an oil leak that somehow was proclaimed as a chassis issue and not a power unit issue. I don't know how your chassis causes an oil leak and smoke inside your cockpit, but that's what I'm reading online, and it makes absolutely no sense. Alex Albon had issues, like repeated power unit related issues, particularly overheating and stemming from cooling system faults. He retired in Canada and Austria. Williams called it as power unit issues. Kimi suffered failures in Imola, Monaco, and Barcelona. Alonso had a power unit issue at Monaco. And so this is what we called like way back in the very beginning when we started seeing this, is like this could be a harbinger, and it could have complicated the season for McLaren, because they're using Mercedes power unit issues. And that was my chief concern, was you've got two drivers and the number one team on the grid, and this could lead to DNFs, which would impact the standings for both the drivers and constructors championships. No longer, like, the constructors is a foregone conclusion. We already know McLaren is going to win. They can't lose at this point. They're almost double the points of Ferrari in second place. It is, however, going to impact the drivers' championship and the competitiveness between Oscar and Lando. And now we're seeing that because Oscar's, 34 or 39 points ahead. We call that was a we were right moment. Like, this Mercedes engine is having issues, and the factory has addressed it, and they're trying to find out the fix and the cause. It seems to be there's an issue with the cooling of it. I don't know how that gets chalked up to a car issue and not a cooling issue and drivetrain issue. But what are you guys' thoughts on this? Like, what's going on with these Mercedes power plants?
I don't have a clue, to be honest with you. I mean, the writing was on the wall very early in the season that something had changed. They were, arguably one of the most reliable power units there is. However, while it's touched, the teams that are using them, it seems to have impacted Mercedes itself more than anybody. So I don't know what they're doing a little differently somewhere along the way. Speculation would be obviously that there's some quality control issue somewhere that's finding its way into the inner workings of that engine. And what's particularly telling about the whole thing is the silence around most of it right now. That's interesting. It's like, why is there no real pinpoint and solution to this? Because it's probably something that's, again, not something that is easily accessible or otherwise, or maybe they just haven't figured it out. Maybe there's a like a contingent problem that emerges and they don't have a causation point for it. It's just odd, though. It really is. It's funny because each time it's happened, I've just seen the Renault badge show up in my head. Like, boy, you guys are tracking in the wrong direction with this. And I wonder if in 2026, with this whole new engine, if any remnants of this problem are going to manifest itself in this new engine. I mean, it's a serious concern, and that may be why they're so quiet about it. Because if it is actually still, a ghost in the machine in the 2026 engine, they're not going to advertise that and scare the pants off of everybody. So it's a fascinating situation. I did want to throw something out there real quick. Just two interesting things that I just found out about, and I might be behind the curve. But one is that Alex Dune is going to be in FP1 for Oscar in Monza. This recently came up. And the other one is that Mercedes is bringing some new spec wings and setups to Monza. That just popped out just a little while ago, like about an hour ago. So there's something developmental that Mercedes is going to try. They're throwing a Hail Mary at Monza. They're going to have two different trims for this wing on the back. We'll see what happens. But back to the Mercedes deal. Yeah, that's my take on it right now. I'm just kind of collecting data and waiting to see what emerges.
Stir the pot. Isn't this where Kimi crashed last year? Whenever he was driving Lewis's car?
That is correct. Parabolica is where he crashed. Coming out of Parabolica.
So they're bringing new parts just for Kimi to crash him?
No, this is Ferrari. Ferrari's.
I could have sworn you said Mercedes. My fault.
No, Ferrari. Ferrari is bringing two new.
So Lewis is going to crash him.
Yeah, well, maybe. Or Charles. Charles not.
Or
Charles
Max is going to crash.
Charles likes to crash once in a while too.
True. Plus,
he's
going
been
to be
good this year, though. He's been pretty on point.
If he drives pissed off, possibly. But he seems to have gotten that underneath a lot of control this year. So I didn't hear anything about Ferrari. So
yeah. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Let's talk about our bold predictions for Monza coming up this weekend. I'd love back-to-back weekends. And happy that we're going to have a race this weekend. Mine, I've got Lando, Oscar, Russell, Max, Charles. Jay, you've got Charles, Lewis, Max, Lando, Oscar. Pretty much the same, just different order for me. Fabian, who do you got?
I've got so this is Monza. Got to think about this just for a hot second.
Yeah, top five. Top five for Monza.
Top five for Monza. Okay. I'm going to go Oscar, Charles, and I don't think Lando's going to finish the race. I think he said he's throwing caution to the wind and he's going for it now. So I think that he's going balls to the wall. And if I had to throw one other person up there, I'm going with Hülkenberg. He was fast as hell in Zandvoort. He hit
Still
the highest
need one more for me.
He hit.
Actually,
more?
technically, since you called it DNF,
well,
I
yeah,
two
I did.
more for
All right, so I don't see Russell. Let's go with Max.
Max,
I'll go
who
with
else
Max.
ran it out?
I'm gonna try to speak some love into Lewis's life and go with Lewis. I haven't been picking him lately, but I'm gonna go with him.
All right, safe bets
because of the new wing.
Hold on. Mine is the only reason it's like this, and I hate it every second of it. Let's be real here. If Ferrari is going to show up anywhere, it's going to be Monza. Simple as that. Because they bring the Monza spec package.
It is the Italian GP
every year. Realistically, obviously they care about the other races, but Monza is a pride point for them. So I think having both of the Ferraris up on the top five, if not podium, is pretty spot on. Plus, they're going to be taking new engines and everything like that. Maybe Lando will just balls out. Sorry, go ahead.
So I'm curious to see, because I think Lando is going to take a grid penalty if he has to replace his power unit now. I'm still going to put him on. No, I'm pretty sure that was it. Because I think he's reached the max, and so he's going to have to take a grid penalty and start from the pits if he takes another power unit. We'll dig into it. We'll touch on it next week, and we'll see what's going on with it. But this has been Formula One Fans of America, Season 2, Episode 18 with Rich, Jay, and Fabian. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week after the Italian Grand Prix.